Hello, welcome back to the Rambling in a Closet podcast. This is Kyle coming to you from, well, my closet. It's, what is today? Gosh, it's Monday, near the end of May, and I haven't recorded anything in a while because I've been nice and lazy. But, hey, that's okay. You know, I've been waiting for this divine intervention to come into my brain so that I have something to talk about. I've had plenty to talk about, I guess. I just keep, being lazy. But I had a pretty good one, and so I just stormed on in here, and it's kind of funny. I sat down to play a couple of games, but the internet connection was out, and so I was like, well, I guess that's a sign. So I came in here, and what got me to thinking was I had a conversation with a coworker the other day, disagreement, but in a polite way. It was a conversation, but it was along the lines of, politics, and I was being perfectly calm the whole time, and he got agitated and admitted, by the way, to being agitated. So it's not just me projecting it. He was actually agitated. And he made the comment that he was agitated because he doesn't have the words to describe what he is trying to say. And I was like, yeah, that would make me agitated too, bud. I understand. And I said, maybe you don't have the words to say because there aren't any words to say it. Of course, that's a smart-ass thing to say, but it's a good point, right? You feel that irritation sometimes when you're disagreeing with someone. You know you're right, but you can't describe how you're right, and sometimes that means you're not right. Which is why, sometimes, now unless it's with family or friends, if it's with like a coworker or an acquaintance, someone I'm not very close with, I remain cool and calm most of the time when I'm disagreeing or talking about things. And I noticed some of the only times I start to get agitated are when I might not know what I'm talking about. And I was thinking about this, and, we've talked about it before. I think I talked about it with the prologue, the episode about can we all just drink along. When you are disagreeing, what seems to happen is that some individuals, such as myself, and you do it sometimes, I'm sure, and I do it, and my fiance does it, and my parents do it, and everybody does it. It's a human thing. You take the thing that you are arguing for, and you make it about you. It's like part of your personality. You're making the political personal, so to speak. So if you and I are in disagreement about tax rates, well, if you're starting to feel attacked, it is because you have taken your position on tax rates and making it and made it something about you. You are personally identifying as someone who believes in this tax rate. Whereas me, I go, well, just based on what I've seen and based on the data and based on my own brain power, it seems to me that this tax rate or this tax setup is the best. And if you disagree with me, well, that's fine because I'm just kind of reporting what I've seen. But if I haven't seen some other things that would lead me to believe the opposite, well, show me. Love to see it. And so I don't take it personally. But if you start to tell me that Star Wars is a very bad, the original series is very bad, and here's why. I'm not going to get irritated because I'm not a child, but I am more apt to get irritated about that because I identify as an individual who likes Star Wars. So you're attacking my identity when you attack Star Wars. You're not attacking my identity when you attack my position on tax rates. But what some people... You and I sometimes, I should stop saying what some people do. What people do is they take these positions that they've, grabbed onto, and instead of digging down and trying to find the truth in what they're believing and doing research and trying to get a better grasp of knowledge on what they're talking about, they just make it a part of them because it feels right. And then that in and of itself is the argument. Well, I believe it, so therefore it is true. And I know that's kind of a straw man, but that is, you hear that a lot. Well, I think it's just your opinion. I think this, and therefore you can't force me to think anything else. I'm like, well, yeah, I can't. It is your opinion, and I can't, but it doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean you're wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're right. You could be very wrong and believe these things. And that got me thinking. And then, so this has been in my head, right? Why people get so agitated when you disagree with them. And there's also this idea of saving face. Well, now that you've, chosen the hill you were going to die on, kind of, you need to defend it to the death. Even if you're consciously thinking, oh crap, like they made a good point and I'm wrong, you still might argue because you don't want to lose face. You don't want to be wrong. And it's so strange because what I've noticed is that whenever I admit I'm wrong, I seem to save the most face. If I look at someone, if they make a good point and I stop and I think and then I look at them and I go, that's a good point. You got me on that one. I'm not going to agree with everything you've said, but that specifically was a good point. As soon as I say that, I get so much more respect in return. Like the conversation becomes more playful, it becomes more fun. Everybody realizes that, oh, hey, we're all on the same page here. We're just trying to figure out like the word, I guess. You get so much more respect and you save face by admitting when you're wrong, because kind of if you're in a conversation, especially of 2 or more people, or 3 or more people, the outsiders tend to know who's right or wrong. They can see who's winning, and if they've seen someone who is very obviously wrong and continuing down the path despite being proven as such, they're going to look pretty bad. Whereas the person who goes, oh, you know what? You're right. That's a good point. Like immediately they go, oh, hey, this person's a logical, coherent individual who we can trust to, whatever. Isn't that cool? And so then I was driving home. So this is I'm explaining how I got to the topic we're going to talk about. It's already been 6 minutes. Then I was driving home from work today, and I was listening to a podcast, and in the podcast, an individual was talking about Jesus and how if you accept Jesus into your life, then you will receive the everlasting mercy, and you will be forgiven for your sins as long as you accept that they were sins and that you go forward knowing that you should never do that again, and you accept Jesus into your life and sacrifice to God, and then you will find a life of peace in eternity. And I'm sitting there and I go, oh, I get it. And obviously I've thought this before, I've said this before, I've also heard this before, but I've never quite heard it in the way that I thought about it in the car, and so I want to share that with you because I kind of think it's somewhat original. It's obviously not. I am not claiming that I am the first person to have thought this. What I am saying, though, is I'm pretty proud of myself for connecting these 2 dots. So tell me what you think. I'd be interested to see what you mean, or what you think. And that kind of goes into the whole... This is the hardest part of Christianity for me to accept, quite honestly, is the whole Jesus thing. Why do I have to believe that this dude died? Like, he's the Son of God, right? And honestly, partly the reason I have a hard time accepting it is because I'm not so knowledgeable about it. But from what I've been told, from what I can tell, Jesus is, essentially also God, but also the Son of God. And he accepted all of our sins as the sins of... So he accepted the sins of us and gave us the eternal mercy that God gave him, I guess. And so Jesus was then, crucified. He was killed in one of the most terrible ways possible, truly painful, and was betrayed by his closest follower, one of his closest followers. So this really tragic fall and betrayal and death of this individual, all that happened to him because he chose to take upon all of that to save the rest of humanity. And that if we don't accept the love of Jesus and the mercy of God, if we don't accept the love of Jesus into our hearts and minds, then we will never then we will never deserve the mercy of God and the everlasting peace that comes with it. And, I might have butchered that a little bit, but I think that's the gist, right? And then I think, well, shoot, that Jesus is truth. And what that analogy is to me is, okay, you and I are in an argument, back to the beginning. You and me, that's right, you and me are arguing about something. And then you make a good enough point to where I think, oh goodness, I see the light. I see the truth. It's obviously true. I cannot run from this anymore. Okay. And then I speak out loud to you, okay, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And now I'm going to direct the rest of my life with the knowledge that I was wrong, and now this way of being is right. Well, what you have just and then now it's up to the other person to act properly. Now, if the other person, if you still continue to come down on me and say, well, it's great you now decide you're right, or no, it's great you figured out that you were wrong. However, you're still stupid for ever believing it. You're never going to make a good life because you believed it in the first place, and I don't forgive you for thinking that in the first place. Well, you are denying me mercy, right? Even though I have accepted truth, you are denying me the mercy, and you are punishing me for my past self that I have now come to the conclusion was wrong. It was a wrong way of being. And instead, if I accept that I am wrong, and if I, being completely honest, if I look at you and say, I was wrong, this is the right way to be, I'm going to live by it from here on out, then what you should do is forgive me, right? You say, okay, Kyle, well, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm so glad that you finally figured out that this was let's just say we're having an intervention about, drug abuse. And, you're coming to me, Kyle, you use all of this, meth or whatever. It's such a silly excuse or example, I guess. But really, there are meth addicts. They have interventions. Imagine it. I'm a meth addict. I'm addicted to sin, right? In this, if you make it biblical, I am, the devil lives inside me, and I am doing its bidding, and I am addicted to it. I desire it, and I feel as if because I desire it, then it is right, and I should continue to do it. But then if you give me an effective enough intervention to make me really see the light and accept that methamphetamine is not a good way to go, and even though I might still battle that addiction, I will still seek to be fixed through AA or rehabilitation place or whatever. As long as I make those sacrifices to show that I no longer live in sin, then you will show me mercy. You're not going to treat me like a meth addict my whole life. You're going to say, wow, this is beautiful. I'm so happy that you've come to the light and see truth, the truth that meth is bad. And now you can live in the light of truth with me and the rest of humanity and go forth and live a happy life. You've shown me the mercy of accepting truth by not holding me or blaming me for my past self. And that I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, which is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing here in this closet. But I feel like I keep repeating myself. That's the story of Jesus. That's the story of Jesus, kinda, right? That makes sense to me. If you and this is the thing that the Bible actually brought to the world. That it seems like people. It's so funny where we are in society, and I say that as if I'm some 60-year-old man, but it seems like we're in a really funny spot as a society when we say things like, there is no such thing as objective truth, it just depends on how you feel, and as long as I'm not directly hurting anybody, I can do whatever I want. It's like, well, no, actually, that's not how that works. There is objective truth. Before the Bible, that's what we thought, was that there is no such thing as truth. It just depends on kind of who's in power, and whatever they say goes, and whoever can make the most effective, coherent argument wins the day. But what Christianity, or what the thinking that came before Judeo-Christian values, which was really just Judeo-Christian stories and values that then became an identifiable religion, they actually brought the idea of truth into the world through the story of Jesus. And what they're saying is that if you want to live the most effective and beautiful life, then you need to accept that there are truths. You cannot just blindly follow your desires and your wishes, because sometimes they are wrong. There are right and wrong in this world, and that if you accept and seek and search for the light and the good, then you will have a more fulfilling and better life than if you just thought that nothing matters. You can believe whatever you want to believe. And by the way, the logical extension of believing whatever you want to believe is that there is no such thing as anything. You can do what anything is permissible. Anything. If you don't accept truth, then anything is permissible. Lying, cheating, stealing, killing, all of it. It's all permissible if there's no such thing as objective truth, because you can make an argument for anything. If life isn't if life isn't inherently valuable, then you can make a logical, coherent argument against the extermination of at least one person. I mean, we all know people who've tried to do that, and it worked for a short time. Fortunately, it was stopped by people who accepted that it was objectively wrong what was being done. It's not, and that's what the Nuremberg trials kind of really showed, was that there are certain things that you cannot be. It's not like we can just say, oh, well, that's just because you're following orders, or that's just what your culture. Like, it was so wrong, it was so evil that it went against objective reality and what is truly moral and good. Essentially, morals were shown that the rest of the world. It was shown that, yeah, we all actually do have morals, and there are certain things that we can all raise our hand and go, yeah, that's bad. And if you think otherwise, you're bad. And which is a funny tie-in, because then you must be saying, or maybe you're thinking, well, wait a minute. Are you now saying that, like, the Nazis, like the really bad Nazis, like the ones who totally partook in the Holocaust, are you saying that they're unforgivable? And then it gets into a really dicey territory. Are they unforgivable because they committed evil? Well, if you listen to the whole Jesus thing, you can find forgiveness in these evil beings. And so here is the unfortunately tough mind grenade to play with. So let's take a very, very evil person. Let's take, why not? We'll go with Joseph Stalin, right? Hitler gets used too much. Let's use Joseph Stalin. Now, if you know much about, let's do Beria. I can't remember his first name. Beria was like the head of the KGB, right? Back in Stalin's days. Beria. He was like possibly the most evil person. Like, and I would describe some of the things he did to give you an idea of how evil he is, but that would just totally ruin our conversation because it's so freaking depressing. Watch The Death of Stalin, and you'll understand. So let's just take Beria. Now, hypothetically speaking, let's just say we had this individual who has done so much evil, the worst evil you can possibly imagine. He sat right in front of you. If you had a lie detector test, let's just say you had a lie detector that was 100% accurate, right? This is obviously a hypothetical, so let's just play along. And Beria looked at you in the eyes and said, I know I am wrong. I know I was wrong. I will never forgive myself. And I will go forth the rest of my life committing myself to fixing these things that I created and making sure that these things never happen again in my life and in the lives of others. So basically, he's coming to you completely accepting truth that what he did was evil and wrong. And this guy was the worst. Well, there is an argument to say that this man is to be forgiven. Because is it better now to just punish this man and erase him from the world? Or do you accept him as a new human being and add him to the fight against evil? Or are his crimes so unforgivable and so evil that it is better that we just wipe him off the face of the earth rather than accept that he is being honest, that he has truly come to light, and to now add his energy to the fight against evil? I mean, it really is not a fun question to ask. Because you have to argue, against what it seems like society is always telling you, which is that there are some people out there who are irredeemable, who should be punished and wiped off the earth. I mean, and I could bring other examples of these individuals into the mix. And by the way, I am not necessarily saying that I think this, because knowing what this individual did, he should be punished, right? Right? You can't just get away with it if you accept. But see, here's the thing, though. I mean, if he truly accepted, yeah, okay, that's a good point, Kyle. If he truly accepted that what he did was as evil as it was, he might just take himself out, right? So, it's a it's definitely not a fun thought to play with, because every part of you, or at least every part of me, thinks and thinks rightly, or at least thinks that I am right in thinking that this person should be punished for the rest of his existence. But is that the right thing to do? And I guess maybe if you listen to the Bible, well, you're not allowed to make that call. That's God's decision, and He will decide how to treat this individual, I guess. Whoever he is, whatever it is, if it's a force, if it's a man, if it's a I don't know. I'm not making the claim that I know, which of course I don't. But essentially, it's not up to you and me to punish this person. We need to treat them with love and try to bring about their best. And then, by the way, if they continue to be evil, then you just like, put them in a cell and try to reach out to them, I guess. But it really is. Well, I mean, but here's the thing. If you take it down to the very small, what we were talking about earlier, you forgive me right away if I change my mind. We let people out of prison all the time when they say, you know what, I really have become a different person. And we hear stories from these people. They did a terrible thing. They came to the light. They either literally accepted Jesus into their hearts, as they say, or they just accepted that there is truth, and that the truth is that they were wrong and that they were committing evil acts. If they've come to that and then shown that they're willing to live the rest of their life against those evil acts and to never sin in that way again, well, we let them out of prison and we give them a chance. We really rehabilitate them. We give them a chance to be a functioning member of society. But is there a line where that stops? Is there a line where, like, a rapist or a pedophile, like, are those ever redeemable people? About 2 hours ago, I would have said no. Or, yes, they're irredeemable. They are forsaken. They should be punished severely in the most grotesque ways possible. I mean, seriously, if you think about what you should do as individuals like that. Or do you accept that everybody can be saved? I mean, it really is an annoying question to ask. And yeah, it just depends on, well, I guess it can't just depend on something. See, I'm actually at the end of my ropes here. I want to go a few more minutes, but I'm at the end of my ropes because I don't know where else to go with this. I think I've laid out the argument, and I don't know how to square it yet, as of right now. I want to believe that everybody's redeemable and that we can bring everybody to the light no matter what they have done. But at the same time, you shouldn't show the rest of society that you can just get away with the evil things. So do you punish people to make a show out of them for the rest of the bad people? Because I don't know if that works, because there are still bad people despite the obvious punishment they're going to get. And does that mean that less people are doing these things because of the punishment they may receive? I don't think so. I really don't. That's something we can end a podcast on right there. Does law and punishment really stop other people from doing anything? Do you not steal things because you're worried about getting caught, or do you not steal things because you know it's wrong? If there were no laws, if murder was legal, would you kill someone? Or do you know that murder is wrong? And therefore that's what would stop you, not the law, not the punishment, but the acknowledgement that murder is evil. So then, are laws really just to punish and to make a show out of? Or are laws meant to stop single instances of crime from happening? Or is it both? Or am I not articulating myself properly? I mean, I'm not necessarily arguing that laws should be abolished, but the government isn't necessarily the best arbitrator and follower-outer of laws. Like, if I remember correctly, the Ten Commandments were laid down on stone. These are the laws that you need to live by if you want to be, walking in the light of God. I obviously don't know, but were they forced to follow these laws? Were there like Jew cops that were Israelite cops that were walking around saying, bad, I mean, I know there was public shaming, and I know there were some laws around this where you would be punished for the breaking of them. And so, wow, I'm opening up a can of worms here, because if you accept, so if you are doing anything other than using the power of the word to stop someone from doing something, then maybe you don't have the power of the word on your side. If you need to force someone to not do something or to do something, maybe that is indicative of your lack of wielding of knowledge and truth. Where was I going with that? Good God. Right, so if you need to force someone by law, like the government, to not do something, well, maybe it's not something you should be forcing people to do or not do. Kyle, are you saying child labor should be legal? It's like, well, yeah, sure, why not? Like, what do you mean? Why shouldn't it be legal? Why shouldn't kids work, get some money, to use at the dollar store? They should be treated well at work. They shouldn't be overworked. But why can't they work? I mean, shoot, I was working when I was like 10. I was mowing the lawn, or I was helping my neighbor buff his boat, making a pretty penny, and I'd have like $10 I can go do something with. Isn't that great? Good God. Kyle, are you saying that slavery should be legal? It's like, well, no, but you don't really need to have a law against that, do you? Like, we all know slavery's bad, and if you ever saw anybody who owned a slave, like if all of a sudden it came to knowledge that like my next door neighbor in this apartment complex had a slave tied up against the radiator against their will, and the cops wouldn't do anything about it, I like to think of myself as an individual who would go up there and try to free the slave. I don't need laws to tell me that this is wrong. I know it's wrong, and I'm going to go try to stop this from happening. I don't need the government to come in and do it for me. Makes me safer. I'm really getting off topic here, but I think you know what I'm trying to. The thing is I'm not really trying to make a point. I'm actually just thinking. I'm trying to answer the question because I don't know if we need laws to make society conform. I don't know if you should want the society to conform. You should have certain things that you all agree on. You should have a culture that, like the Ten Commandments are pretty awesome. They're a pretty good, like nice, even 10 numbers, right? Easy to remember. They're pretty good laws or rules. Don't murder, ever. Yeah, yep, we can all agree on that. By the way, murder is not self-defense. Self-defense is not murder. We're talking about cold-blooded murder, killing an innocent person for no reason. Or just killing an innocent person. That's murder. Stealing is bad. Yeah, always. Never good. Never good. It's just not. It's never, Kyle, what about stealing from a corrupt company? Yeah, not good. Why does two wrongs make a right? You shouldn't do it. You should stop the corrupt company in other ways that are truthful and good, and not by stealing from them. Kyle, are you saying Robin Hood was a bad person? Not technically, because Robin Hood was, kind of just, you could say, getting back what was stolen from him or his fellow poor people, right? If someone steals something from you and you go get it back, that's not stealing, is it? And you could say that about the government. Oh, Kyle, are you saying you can steal against the government? I don't know what you mean by that. No, because a lot of people pay into taxes, and if you want to steal like a screwdriver from the fire department, which is like your contribution to this fire department over last year, they wouldn't stop you. They'd like shout at you as you ran away, but it's not good, right? I know, I'm getting really off. I'm getting really minutia, stuck in the minutia. Guy, and I really don't want to end on this because it feels like I just petered out. I had a really cool middle part, and then I just petered off on whether or not we need law. Well, I guess this can be the next conversation because I don't know, and I'm at a half an hour here, so I can stop. But genuinely, I really don't. I like to think that there is a way, by just using the force of truth and the word, you can convince everybody of the right way to be. You can. I don't necessarily think you need the force of a weapon to cajole and to threaten people to do the right thing. I think you can use good and your words and logic. And I guess Jesus. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and get off. And now I'm going to go play some video games. And I'm going to go do some more thinking on whether or not how to continue this last end of the podcast, because I don't know how to end it, because I don't know what the answer is. Find me on the Twitter, and please take part. Ask, like, seriously, if you just asked a question on my Twitter feed, do you know how helpful that would be? I could turn a question into an entire episode, and then you could come on with me, because right now there's like 5 people who listen to this. There's like 20 people who tune in, but I could have each and every one of you on here as a special guest if you wanted to. You can come on and chat, and we could talk, whatever. I don't care. Why not? It would be very helpful, because there are times where I just don't know what to talk about. And if you ask me a question, or if you found something I said to be wrong, or if you found it to be right, just comment. It's at GKEI2023 on the Twitter. At GKEI2023. It's Good Knowledge, Evil Ignorance, the name of the podcast before I changed it to Rambling in a Closet. But if you just look up Rambling in a Closet on Twitter, you'll find me. Or you can just message me on Facebook, because I think you're all friends of mine on Facebook right now, because, like I said, there's like 20 of you. Anyways, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. See ya.